touching lives, touching hearts. It's in her DNA. She's my personal friend and a mentor to me in connection with people. She's a listener and she sees you. And now it's our turn to listen. Dr. Maggie Augustin.
Please note the relevant financial disclosures between myself and Productive Dentist Academy. The first time I saw Eric Roman speak, I was hypnotized. I was on my own journey of wanting to become an inspirational speaker. And so Eric Roman represented everything that I wanted to be. And so when I found out that I would be sharing the stage with him, I became paralyzed. Tomorrow will mark the beginning of the 18th week of a migraine that my doctors can't break me out of. And despite that, I woke up every single morning practicing this presentation ad nauseum. And every time I did, something didn't go well. And it didn't matter, because I kept doing it over and over again, holding myself up to the incessant pursuit of perfection that I knew wouldn't come. I held myself up to impossible expectations. And where do you think that came from, doctors? It came from dental school. Every time I did this presentation, it felt like I was prepping tooth number 19 in D2 year, and I just wanted to throw it across the room. And then I went back the next day and I did it again. Because in order for us to get to the end of this stage, to collect those letters of DDS and DMD, we had to push through some very uncomfortable moments. Dental school was terribly unforgiving, and at times when we needed comfort, we had to push through those moments. We needed to study. We had to give up times with our family, and we needed to forego moments of celebrations. And so we became these machines. Our perceptions of how hard we worked became distorted. We thought that how hard we worked, everybody worked like that. And so when I became a practice owner, and I began to hire my team, those were the very distorted expectations that I held of them. I expected them to get up early in the morning. I expected them to practice presentations like this 40 times ad nauseum despite their migraines. And you see, what complicated things more was that, well, I was paying them less than I was paying myself. And also, people in the community, they put me up on a pedestal because of the letters behind my name. Banks were willing to lend me millions of dollars to build out my practice, to purchase a home and a car. And that led me to pedestalize myself. I began to believe that I was better than everybody else. So on one hand, I was better than everybody else. I worked very, very hard. And on the other hand, I expected them to work very, very hard. And so I began to practice a top-down leadership where I was the most important people of all. And I required them to respect me without earning their respect. And this is what a day in my practice was like.
I am the decider of us three. I decide. Let the decider decide. I am not the suggester. I'm not having a good time with this game.
Legit. I was not the suggester. My team would come up with ideas, and I would shoot them down because I was threatened. Because those ideas, they weren't my ideas. And so is it really any wonder that when I walked down the halls of my practice, I heard my team members referring to me in derogatory terms? Is it really any wonder that when I walked into a lunchroom where my team was having fun and they were laughing, all of a sudden, everything went quiet? And when nobody was listening to me and when I was getting no respect, I got up on my soapbox, which I can't have here in front of you because of these heels, and I stood up even taller and I screamed even louder, "You will listen to me." And you know what happened? Happy Tooth had a revolving door of people that came and went, of people that I hired and fired. And that list today is at 100. It took a battle of cancer for me to start to look inward and to begin to wonder what it was about me that was so ugly. And I carry a lot of deep shame about the person that I was. And what I had come to realize was that I was the very first obstacle in my practice's profitability. I was the very first obstacle in my team's sanity. I was the very first obstacle in everyone's happiness. And I kept looking inward. And this is around the time of the pandemic. And serendipitously, that's one of my favorite words, and I'm so grateful I was able to pronounce it correctly. Serendipitously, Productive Dentist Academy had a business foundations course online that I was able to take. And during that course, I met some incredible people. Chad Johnson, Wade Kiefer, and Dave Deal were my PDA faculty. And they taught me that in order for me to change my leadership style, I needed to first seek to understand my team. I met Bruce Baird and Victoria Peterson, who taught me to very bravely continue to look inward to find my purpose and my passion, and to do good while doing good. And then I became a client of PDA, and I met these incredible folks here who are now my family. who have held my hand through the process of discovering the kind of leader that I wanted to become, and they have been a shoulder for me to cry on. And so I always love to give credit when credit is due, but I no longer am the boss of the practice. The practice mission is the boss. I went and I rehumanized the practice. And these are the words of my very good friend Chuck Blakeman, who wrote the book about rehumanizing the workforce. And as I continued to develop my leadership style, this is once again around the time of the pandemic when the hygienists were leaving the profession in drones. And we were missing a hygienist. And rather than writing an ad looking for a dental hygienist in the western suburbs of Chicago, I sat down and I wrote an ad titled, "A Love Letter to My Dental Hygienist." And while nobody was getting any clicks and nobody was getting any applicants, I got close to 700 views. This ad went viral online, and we got 20, I think it says 25 or 26 applicants. And if you want a copy of this ad and the article that goes along with it, you can take the QR code. But when I said my morning prayers, I didn't pray that people would apply to this ad. I prayed that I would live up to the promises that I made in this ad, not just to my new dental hygienist, but to every single person on my team. And that was that I would be willing to deliver something different, that I was offering a position where someone would be willing to come and work with us, and that I would be willing to provide a safe and positive environment. And so we went from hiring clock watchers and people that worked for us to hiring innovators and disruptors and people that were working with us, inspired leaders. And these aren't just buzzwords. If you go to our Instagram accounts, you'll see the laughter. You'll see that what I'm talking about actually exists. In our practice, not one person is any more important than another. And sometimes I feel that as a healthcare provider who has set out to be a healer, I shouldn't be saying this, but I say this time and time again. My team is far more important to me than any patient walking through the door. And so we have moved from a top-down leadership to a servile leadership, where I, all of a sudden, am on the bottom of the pyramid, holding everyone up. The proudest day in my practice is not the day that Dr. Chad Johnson came last Friday and helped me place my 100th implant. It's not the day over the summer where my hourly production was at $2,400. Thank you. Thank you, PDA. It's the day that we came together as a group to solve a problem. We had just hired a new associate and a new assistant, and all of a sudden, our patients were not agreeing to treatment plans, and they were leaving confused. And I asked my team members to meet me in the office, and I'll tell you, the office is probably the size of half of this stage, and there's a couch here. And everyone brought in a chair. And in fact, they offered to bring me a chair also. But I, very purposefully, let's see if I can do this. I positioned myself on the floor below them. And I did that with a very specific purpose, so that I could look up to them so that I could look up at them. And it had awakened them. They connected. They collaborated. Their trust within one another, it deepened. Their support for one another became more real. They united, and they felt empowered by it. They left entirely transformed because of having been given the opportunity to speak freely. And all of us, including our patients, were better for it. If I could ask everyone in the room to please stand up. Yeah, we need that. And now, if I could have the doctors and the practice owners sit down. What I want you to do is I want you, doctors, to feel what it's like to look up at your team members. I want you to understand that each one of them comes with their unique set of talents. Each one of them has their own set of strengths. They are smart enough, they are strong enough, and they are independent enough. And they deserve freedom to think, to innovate, and to disrupt processes. Everyone can go ahead and sit down. There's more. I am willing to bet my bottom dollar, and there's a lot of dollars because of PDA, that doctors, when you chose to become dentists, you said that you wanted to help people. Your teams, they're those people. As humans, we want two things. We want connection, and we want to be relevant. We want to be lifted up. We want to feel important. We want to feel self-worth. We want to feel empowered. And doctors, as leaders, you have that beautiful capability to gift that to your team members. All along, we have been practicing this idea that as doctors, we are the hero of the story. Within your teams, within every single one of your teams, there lies magic. And all we have to do is change the narrative. We're not the hero of the story, but what we can be is a conduit for that magic to spill out. And in the words of my all-time favorite philosopher, all of a sudden, when we become the conduit of that magic, when you lift and when you empower those teams around you, when you lower yourself down, when you look up to them, when you give them the freedom, the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. Thank you.